before I begin, I wanted to share my condolences and my thoughts on a couple of NFL passings that have happened recently. First and foremost, what happened on Sunday morning was an absolute stunner. Seeing Nick Mangold pass away. He was only 41 years old. He passed away due to complications of kidney disease. And what I remember about him, not only at Ohio State, but as a New York Jet especially, he was a spectacular center. One of the best centers in the late 2000s, 2010s. I saw Rex Ryan's emotional words about him, and you felt for him because obviously Ryan was there in New York during the Mangold tenure, and he was one of the leaders of that team. He was probably the heart and soul of that team, one of the real critical pieces of those two Jet teams that made those AFC championships. And if he's not already in the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, I'm sure he will be. And I think 74 patches, I'm sure, are coming in some way, shape, form, or fashion for the Jets in some way. So rest in peace to Nick Mangold. And another passing, which I didn't acknowledge here, that I will acknowledge now, last week was Doug Martin. And I was actually working at his finest hour when it came to the NFL. In 2015, he had 235 yards rushing in what was a dominant Bucs victory. And I think if Tampa Bay tried, he could have broken the rushing record. He was that good in that particular game. The Muscle Hamster's first year and a half in the NFL were absolutely stunning. He was incredibly dominant as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for a couple years. And it's a shame that his career was rather short. And unfortunately for him, he had mental health issues that apparently led to his passing. He actually died in police custody. I left the Find Help hotline for those who may need it. And we should all have our peace, and we should all have the ability to find whatever peace is necessary, whatever ways that we can find peace, whatever outlet we can to get it. Hopefully those who are struggling with mental health can go talk to someone and find some clarity and find a way to mentally and emotionally recover and get to where they need to get to. So I left this here, and hopefully everyone can be safe and sound and again find their peace. So rest in peace to Doug Martin and Nick Mangold. Doug Martin was only 36 years old. As I mentioned, Nick Mangold was only 41. And now it's time to get to the normal thoughts that I have for these weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike. You have now arrived at my train of thought. It's time for the Week 8 Railway Recap. And this week was very different because there were a lot of beatdowns. So for more on this, I'm going to need the kids to get involved a couple times. Here's time number 1.
Stop! He's already dead.
Thank you very much. And we got to talk about what happened on Thursday with the Vikings and the Chargers. And this was a bludgeoning of the highest order, very much so. Justin Herbert had no real qualms at all with dealing with the Viking defense. As they say, look good, feel good, play good, pay good, eat good, live good. Deion Sanders taught us that. Salute to Deion for that. And in any event, the Chargers absolutely dominated this game. And it was the Charger pass rush that also did their damage. The Minnesota Viking offensive line got absolutely worked by the Chargers. So much so that Carson Wentz is now out for the season, and now Minnesota is either going to get JJ McCarthy back or they're going to have to go with a third QB. And I feel bad for whoever's going to be behind that offensive line because they are not playing well at all this season. Herbert was awesome. Arondé Gadsden Jr. was also very awesome. National Tight Ends Day was on Sunday, and Gadsden got the party started early. He was tremendous on Thursday night. And the Chargers as a team absolutely cooked and bounced back strong after what was a beatdown by the Colts. They keep up with the Broncos and the Chiefs, who I will talk about in a little bit. National Tight Ends Day continued at the lake as Dallas Goedert got his 2 tugs in, but we're going to get to Dallas Goedert's day in a sec because this started with Saquon Barkley absolutely dominating. Second play of the game, 65 yards to the left, to the crib, and the tone was set from there. The Eagles ran for 278 yards. They ended up getting 2 backs over 100 yards. It wasn't just Saquon. It was Also, Tank Bigsby, who had 104 yards on 9 carries. Yikes. The most concerning of which being the 2nd and 31 run where Bigsby got 34 yards. You can't allow that. I don't care what the circumstances are. Horrible, horrible run defense there by the Giants. Their offensive line wasn't much better because they got completely worked by the Eagles. What a difference having Jalen Carter makes, because Carter didn't play in the first game, and it showed. Carter did play in this game, and it showed. This was a merciless beatdown by the Eagles, who tried to have their backups in and still didn't show mercy. It was quite a thing. There was one moment where we could all kind of show some grace, and that's what happened to Cam Scatterbo, who was already having a good game. He had scored a touchdown earlier in it, and then unfortunately his ankle got dislocated. There's pictures of it that are clear as day, and if you're not squeamish around this time of year of horror movies, you probably don't need to see it. I've seen it. It's not great. Scatterbo's ankle got dislocated, and he's done for the year pretty much. It was nice of Big Dom to show up in his hospital room with pizza and cheesesteaks. I dig it. That's really cool of Big Dom to do that. But it's a horrible end to what was looking like a really good season for Cam Scatterbo. And whatever optimism you had for the Giants 2 weeks ago, it's dead. It is very, very dead. After getting your soul ripped out, and you saw Jackson Dart get Wiggum down the sideline in Denver, to losing Scatterbo and getting absolutely bludgeoned by a revenge-thirsty Eagles, no bueno. And the Eagles are now 6-2, and whatever problems the Eagles have had are all but kind of sort of gone now, I would say. Okay, where is this Dolphins team back in week 1? This Dolphins team is a team I thought was going to go to the playoffs. They were efficient on offense. Tua played really well. They ran the ball well with Ollie Gordon and Devon Achane. Jalen Waddle did his thing and absolutely shredded, and Tua did as well, the best pass defense in the league. I'm not making that up. They absolutely dominated. This was not a fluke. Miami was that much better than Atlanta. And I think this is proof positive that trusting the Falcons is a fool's errand, because the Falcons looked awful. I get it. Mike Penix didn't play. I get it. Drake London didn't play. Like I said, that has nothing to do with their defense getting shredded. Kirk Cousins looked old and looked bad and looked like, okay, there's a reason why no one's trading for him. It was a really rough performance for Cousins. Bijan Robinson only got the ball 9 times. You can't do that against the worst run defense in football. That is inexcusable. Now, Jordan Brooks and company played well. Don't get it confused. But Bijan Robinson, your best player, only getting the ball 9 times is an absolutely foolish errand. Atlanta shows why they should not be trusted. Miami shows why this season is so frustrating for Dolphins fans, because this Dolphins team is a playoff team. The one that played in the previous 7 weeks, aside from the Jet game, is a top 5 draft pick team. You see how frustrated Dolphin fans are. Dolphins Twitter was kind of in a what in the world just happened type of mode. Now, the AFC East bludgeoning the NFC South had a 2-piece combo. This was part 2. What Buffalo did to Carolina was also merciless. And for Carolina to have a really good run defense, especially at home, and then get bludgeoned by James Cook, is shocking. And sure, Andy Dalton was absolutely bad. He was pretty miserable against a decent Buffalo defense, I will say. And they didn't really make Buffalo pay for having a mediocre to bad run defense, as Ed Oliver got hurt in this game, and he may not be back. He might have torn his bicep, which is a devastating injury for him and for the Bills. But it didn't even matter, because James Cook did the heavy lifting. Josh Allen got him where he fit in, broke Cam Reddick's rushing TD record, ironically, in Charlotte. And this was a merciless beating, and it was pretty straightforward. Buffalo's got a monster showdown next week that I will absolutely talk about tomorrow in Power Rankings. But Carolina, whatever trust we had in them to turn a corner, maybe they just turned into a brick wall. Staying in the AFC East, Myles Garrett got his day wasted. 5 sacks and a dominating performance against Drake May and company. Proof positive that New England, though they have come so far, still has a ways to go in some areas, namely their offensive line. When Drake May wasn't peeling himself off the turf, however, he was still doing his thing. And the Patriots as a team were still doing their thing. And they were bludgeoning a Browns team that's still relatively bad. Cleveland did not force too many mistakes either, which is the other part of why this game was a beatdown and this game was really not interesting at all. New England proceeded to do their thing with their choice of words of having a choice of weapon being Mac Hollins. And Stephon Diggs, who scored as well. And Hunter Henry celebrating National Tight Ends Day with his cameo appearance. I guess that works too. The point being, the Patriots continued to roll, and Dylan Gabriel continued to be below average. I think we'll just go there for him. New England back at 6-2, and I don't think anybody outside of the New England area is happy about it, simply because none of us think that they paid their penance for the Tom Brady career of terror, where he terrorized everybody else outside of New England. And then New England, when he went to Tampa. Yeah, it's quite a thing. Anyway, the Patriots are 6-2, and it feels like it's a blast from the past because they have a franchise quarterback, and it sickens everyone else. And now to the one game of the 1 o'clock hour where it A, wasn't all that interesting, and B, it was pretty straightforward. And when it came to Houston and San Francisco, it was C.J. Stroud dotting up the Niner defense. It was Stroud having his best day of the season, 300-plus yards, and it was 16-0 midway through the second quarter. It was just a relatively easy day for the Texans. The Niners, though they got both their touchdowns from their tight ends, Kittle and Tongs, it was simply nothing they could really do otherwise. They were just not in this game whatsoever, which is a shame because San Francisco looked like they were heading in the right direction and had a golden opportunity to make up ground as the Rams and Seahawks were both off, and instead they lose a half game, which is not great. They at least have tiebreaker on both those teams I mentioned, but in this game, Houston was far superior, and C.J. Stroud looked like himself again. Well, at least his rookie self, not his sophomore self. That's generally much better. Chicago. Why? How? Derrick Henry, I get it. Henry's going to do that to some teams. I would have thought that your run defense would be able to withstand Derrick Henry. They were not. I would have thought they'd be able to run on Baltimore's run defense, which has been, well, trash for a lot of this season. And DeAndre Swift has been very good. They really didn't. And though Caleb Williams had a decent day in terms of the numbers, it wasn't good in the sense of production and some of the throws he made. And that's, I think, the disconnect here. Where Baltimore didn't really make too many mistakes with Snoop Huntley, they were just was truly productive. And with that came the success. And with that came Chicago, who just didn't really get out of the blocks. Baltimore won a very straightforward game, which, unlike the Houston game, was kind of interesting. It was just handled really badly at points for the Bears. For example, at the very end of the game, DJ Moore had a spectacular catch, almost scored on it. They had first and goal at the 1, and then they went 4 and out from the 1-yard line, the last of which being a throw to Moore. And the third down was really stupid, and Chicago wasted a lot of time doing this. The third down play was really dumb, getting Caleb Williams trying to run it in to the left side. It went nowhere. And the fourth down play, Caleb had DJ Moore wide open in the back of the end zone and completely missed him in a hilarious fashion. This was not a good loss for the Bears. And this was a golden opportunity for the Packers to try to make up some ground on Chicago or gain even more ground on the Bears. Did they? We'll talk about it later. Bengals. We've got something to discuss. Why? How could you have possibly done this? Why did you do this? Why did you think doing this was a good idea? This was an abject disaster of the highest order for Cincinnati. Old man Flacco was cooking. He was Uncle Drew with a football as opposed to a basketball. T. Higgins was doing his thing. Flacco had 3 tutties, and he ran for one of them. And the first half was an abject destruction. I was going to, in theory, put this with a lot of the earlier games I did in this video were going to go. And instead, it's here because for some reason, the Bengals defense decided to leave at halftime and decided to go to Kentucky or something and help the Wildcats. Spoiler alert, there was no helping the Kentucky Wildcat defense. Tennessee scored 60 points almost and did it in under like 20 minutes. I produced that game. It was quite a thing. Anyway, this was the Jets somehow coming back, and maybe they were blessed by the spirit of Nick Mangold to show toughness and grit, and maybe that helped their situation. It certainly helped Breece Hall, who was absolutely dominant in this game. He had 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. He ran for 2 of them and threw the game-winning score to Mason Taylor. Justin Fields even got into the action and had a very good game in his own right. He scored as well. this was a really gritty, tough win for a Jet team that needed a win of any kind to avoid the ultimate humiliation. And for Cincinnati to suffer this humiliation 10 days after beating your arch op in Pittsburgh, it's an awful loss. And I think we can pretty much throw dirt on the Bengals season, even with old man Flacco doing his thing, because Flacco, Higgins, Chase, and Chase Brown, who wasn't anywhere near as good as he was in the Pittsburgh game, did not deserve this. That defense is hideous. Please free Trey Hendrickson and free him at your earliest convenience, which is generally before next Tuesday. And now we get to the late games, and how many of the kids have returned for this one?
Stop! He's already
Thank you
dead.
very much. And we got to talk about the Bucs and the Saints. And to be honest, this beatdown by Tampa Bay should have been a whole lot worse, and they got absolutely robbed of a second pick six, or actually second defensive tutty by Antoine Winfield Jr. The refs' whistles were questionable in several games this week. I didn't even mention the Eagles game with the brotherly shove that should have been a fumble and the Giants' clear recovery, or a whistle that happened in a game where Jake Elliott missed that kick, missed a field goal, and a whistle was blown during the ball being in the air. He would have missed the kick anyway, but it was some questionable whistles that happened across the league. That may have been the most egregious one, aside from the whole brotherly shove fumble. And when it came to this Tampa game, the Bucs were pretty straightforward, aside from the beatdown, the Anthony Nelson pick six. And their defense was rather dominant against Spencer Rattler to the point where he got benched. And Tyler Shue is now going to be starting going forward. I don't like his chances against a rested Rams team. But I'll talk about the Rams tomorrow. Anyway, this was a demolition by Tampa Bay and a get-right game, if you ever could ask for one, if you are the Bucs, who simply just cooked in every way, shape, form, and fashion. Good job at Baker and company to get back on track, and you now steal a game or gain a game on the Falcons and the Panthers after their losses in the 1 o'clock set of games. Yep, Tennessee is that bad. Yep, Indianapolis is that good. Two things can be true. This was the second beating that Tennessee has suffered at the hands of the Colts in the span of a month, and it was pretty much self-explanatory. It was Jonathan Taylor showing up and handling business. It was Cam Ward making a couple of very dumb passes, one or two of them being Innos, and it was, simply put, a bloodbath that we all saw coming and fully expected. There's not much else to truly say. It was probably the worst team in the league playing the best team in the league, and it showed itself in every way, shape, form, and fashion. Again, not much else to say. Indianapolis, your schedule after these freebies is now going to get a whole lot harder. So we're going to see how good you really are at 7-1 and how good you really can be. You were tested against the Broncos and Chargers and you passed. There will be other tests coming. Good luck. Now, Dallas, you are Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the team. 1 week you show up and you cook. You dominate the Commanders without much of a problem whatsoever. And I get it, Jalen Daniels was out, but that was really about your offense absolutely shredding their defense. And then this happens, and your defense gets absolutely shredded by the Broncos. Now, these uniforms, first and foremost, by Denver are really sweet. What was also really good was R.J. Harvey getting 3 tugs and being very dominant while getting said tugs. And what was also really good was Bo Nix and company on the offensive side, aside from the first drive, which was, being very productive. What was also really good was that despite PS2 not playing for a good amount of these games, they were pretty solid against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Well, aside from Riley Moss covering CeeDee Lamb, that didn't work out so well. There's several penalties there. Other than that, it was a very dominant performance by the Broncos, and for a Cowboys team that needs the wins and needs the good defensive performances, it simply wasn't there. And when the offense is flat or uninspiring or just not there, aside from Javonte Williams, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, or Dak Prescott, or Jason Ferguson, it's not great. It's not a good look. And the Cowboys are probably going to be what Tony Romo said they were. Hovering around 500, a game or two will determine whether they make the playoffs or not, and their defense will determine whether they win either of those games. Or two. Hide your kids, hide your wives, hide your husbands, hide your eyes, like Tua did, from these Pittsburgh Steelers uniforms. Yikes. I don't know who thought they cooked with the Steelers uniforms like this, but there's only one thing I can say about them. they aren't the Bumblebee uniforms. They're just the second worst ones the Steelers have ever had. Aaron Rodgers had an opportunity to be just the fifth QB to beat all 32 NFL teams, and he could not. To be fair to him, it wasn't his fault. The Steelers defense, yet again, is very overhyped and overpaid and very overrated. They did not show up yet again against the Packers, and proof that it is National Tight Ends Day, Tucker Kraft decided to enter the chat and absolutely shredded the Steelers defense. It was a very good performance on his part, especially in the second half, where a lot of the damage was done by the Packers. Jordan Love played relatively well, didn't make too many mistakes. Rodgers didn't really make any either, honestly. It was just the Steelers defense just didn't make any stops that were of meaning. The third down defense was struggling. They did a decent job against Josh Jacobs in the first half, but didn't do anywhere near as good of one in the second. It was just a lot of things that went wrong for Pittsburgh and a lot of struggles that they had in every way, shape, form, and fashion on that side of the ball. DK Metcalf aside, the Steelers' receiving core did little to nothing, and that's really disappointing, especially considering how bad Keyshawn Nixon was in the first half of this game. Green Bay won this game, and it was really not that hard for them to win it, to be honest. Good win for the Packers. And for Pittsburgh, their schedule's going to get a little harder coming up with the Colts as your next stop. I will talk about that game tomorrow. We probably should have seen this coming after Jaden Daniels was ruled out, but we're going to need the kids to talk about this one.
Stop! He's already dead.
Thank you once again. And now we got to talk about this Chiefs Monday night game where National Tight Ends Day was celebrated one last time this week as Travis Kelce did score, but it was also another really good day by Pat Mahomes, who carved up the Commander defense. He and Kareem Hunt, who scored twice, did a very good performance. And honestly, Marcus Mariota, despite his best efforts and great touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin, simply just couldn't get out of the blocks otherwise. Too many mistakes by the Commanders. They just couldn't get right and get enough stops. They committed too many dumb penalties as well against the Chiefs. And against Kansas City, you cannot do that. And because of all that, it was a relatively efficient, easy win, despite a couple of turnovers by Kansas City. And now the Chiefs are suddenly getting their feet back under them, going into what will be a heavyweight showdown next week. As I mentioned, I will talk about their game with Buffalo. For Washington, their season's in a lot of trouble. Let's face it, they still have the Eagles twice left on their schedule, obviously being a playoff caliber schedule from last year as they made that great run. And with Jaden Daniels' injury situation, they're looking like they're in real trouble to make it back to the postseason, especially considering how good the NFC North is and how the Eagles are all of a sudden 6-2, and it's not looking great with the NFC West with three teams that are also playoff caliber. And because Tampa Bay is going to make it out of the South, it's still not it's not a good look for a Washington team that had high expectations. At least you're going to get in the stadium in a couple of years. The early slate was not kind for my picks. The late slate, however, was very good stance Dallas. I went 7-6 overall this week, and my overall record is 71-48-1. Coming up tomorrow, power rankings. They're going to be normal this week, I promise. I'm not going to go an hour. I don't need to. At least not this time. There will obviously be a new team at 32. There probably won't be a new team at 1 or 2. And everybody else in between, there will obviously be some decent movement. Who's going to be in Zombie tier? There may be a team that's worthy of it that's in, and there may be a team that'd be worthy of getting out. I'll have to go through all that. I'll take the next day to move around my rankings as I feel like they need to be moved. Either way, Jets, congratulations. You will not be the first stop of my next train of thought. That train's going to Nashville. Titans, you've earned that honor this week. You will be the first stop of my next train of thought.